Marcia, this is sending love to you for,
Oh, thank you.
yeah, for having lost Lucy. Oh, J Baba. I'll never leave you. On this you can depend. I'll be always with you in ways you cannot comprehend. Let not your heart be troubled by the things that pass your eye. This world is made of shadows that your mind learned to disguise. I will never leave you. On this you must believe. No matter where you're going, no matter where your path may lead, let not your soul be weary by this constant feel of tears. You know I'll be there waiting when the clouds all disappear. I will always love you in darkness and in light. We'll always be together. You'll never ever leave my side. Let not your heart be troubled by the things that pass your eyes. This world is made of shadows that your mind learned to disguise. I will never leave you. I will always love you. I will never leave you.
That was so beautiful. Thank you.
J Baba Marsha, sending so much love.
I had a song I used to sing to my daughter when she was little, but I think I sang it to Lucy the other day, but I only remember a part of it, but I might start crying if I sing it, but I'll see if I can do it. Go to sleep, my little one. Dream a dream, a dream, a dream come true. Dream of faraway places. Dream of warm embraces. And I forgot the rest. But I sang it to Lucy yesterday. I was sketching her the other day, you know, and I didn't know she was going to go. So I made all these little pictures of her. Anyway, she's with Baba. She went right with Baba. You know, it was so quick. She just like, she didn't suffer, you know. But I don't know what happened. It's like, anyway, I lost another dog last year. So I had 7. So I'm getting, but this is the worst. I don't know why. I think it's just that maybe I feel like, I think all my losses from everything are just coming out now that I probably held in for all the, you know, all the people that are, everything's just coming out.
And it's an intense time.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. So
So,
Anyway,
I
thank you.
yeah.
we've got, like I say, only a few people in this country who've met Baba and grown up with Baba, and we have today Goher Mobed, and she she shared a couple weeks ago, and I was going to have her backtrack a little bit. She's telling her story of Minu Karas, who was her father and one of the Mandali, going back to the early 30s. And I want to have her go back to a critical time in her father's life when he was on a mountainside as midnight was approaching. And if you could start from there, because not all of you were here last time, and I thought if you could start from there, and then she'll she'll go through, continue with her father's life, and then her meetings with Baba in the 60s, if there's time, and then I hope we have time for question and answers. So I know it's late for you on the East Coast, and it's late for Goer too, because she's on the East Coast. So anyway, it's all yours, Goer. Jay Baba. Whoop, you're muted. Yeah.
Oh, there, sorry. Jai Baba, everyone. I'm happy to be back and sharing again, and we'll continue with Dad's story. So, as Jeff said, just to recap real quickly for those who missed it the last time. So, Minu had had a very difficult childhood growing into his teenage years, and his very strong feeling about God and who he was and why he couldn't meet him, and his absolute conviction that in this life he would in fact meet him somehow, somewhere, carried him through along many avenues and so forth. And we come to a stage where in his early years in college, he had four friends who were spiritually minded. And together they had made a pact to search for God, each taking a different direction. And they decided that should any one of them find him, that he would inform the others. So Minu's ardent search for God led him down many different paths, including visiting holy shrines, temples, churches, mosques, and crossing paths with various sages, saints, sadhus, and such. As you know, India abounds in all of these. So, but none of this brought him any closer to finding his God. His faith and determination remained strong, however, until one day when a man who displayed wonderful occult and psychic powers attempted to commit an unnatural offense on him, and he finally managed to escape after a fearful struggle. This episode so disillusioned him after all that he had been through already that he vowed to make one last attempt, and if he failed, was committed to ending his life by his own hand. He was convinced that if God were indeed only hiding and was who he said he was, and knowing the depth of his love and conviction to find him, then it would be God himself who would come to his rescue and spare his life. Otherwise, his life would end on a hill on the outskirts of the city. So a clear note was sounded to God, and on the appointed day, without informing anyone, he quietly slipped away to that location. Either his life would end, or by some miracle, he would be saved. Midnight was the appointed hour, and Minu fully expected and was ready for the former outcome. However, most miraculously and unexpectedly, one of his four spiritual friends came running up that hill and found him in the nick of time, and after repeated efforts managed to take him away from that awful place. His friend stated that he had been instructed by a yogi of a high order to find Minu and bring him. Even though this yogi had not found God himself, he would be instrumental in leading Minu further in his search. Pleasantly surprised, Minu found that he recognized this elderly yogi who lived next to the graveyards as being a teacher at his old school. He also discovered that he had been under the protection of this yogi who, in one of his nightly samadhis or deep meditations, had seen the impending tragedy to befall Minu and had tactfully but forcefully sent his friend to find Minu and had inwardly guided him to the exact spot. This, I think, is one of the many unusual circumstances that shaped Minu's destiny. Because think about it, how did, here he was, hadn't told anybody where he was, and was about to do this, the only communication being between him and his God. And here comes one of his friends running up the hill and saving him in the nick of time. And then the story unfolding that this yogi had seen this impending tragedy to happen and had thus saved him. Thereafter, Minu kept in close association with the old yogi, who was known as Master Ram Sundar Pandey, and felt blissfully happy in his company. The yogi said he had found a great soul, quote unquote, in Minu, whose last few lives had been unnecessarily lost. He would insist on Minu performing japa, which is silent recitation of certain mantras, which he said would henceforth protect his life from such dangers as snake bites and gunshot wounds. Sorry. He also gave Minu a sacred thread, which Minu was to keep on his person and which would further protect him from all evil forces and save his life, cautioning Minu not to take any of this lightly. Minu mutely obeyed the yogi, although not fully understanding why, but felt instinctively that there was some supernatural power guiding him in his quest. He had also been an avid scholar of books on spirituality, and one day was overjoyed to discover in one called Kabir Vani by the acclaimed poet and perfect master Kabir Sahib that God does appear in human form during certain spiritual periods. At last he had found God, if yet only in a book. This finding, though, fit like a glove when he further discovered that this was one of those times. During this period, another curious thing happened. Suddenly, in the course of a single day, Minu set about collecting images of all the known prophets of history, beginning with Zoroaster, Ram, Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, and ending with with the late mayor of Karachi, who was a gentleman by the name of Jamshed Nasarwanji, who was then his ideal in life. He had all these framed and mounted them at the head of his bed, calling it the ladder of ascent, beginning with his ideal at the bottom and continuing in reverse chronological order to Lord Zoroaster at the top. He was convinced that one day he would rise to the required height to find God. This curious event also played a significant part in his quest, as we will see.
Now,
When one,
Goher, now this is like the early 30s, early 1930s?
this is yes, very early 1930s. Yes, I
Good.
would say about 31, somewhere there.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Okay, so one day the yogi told him he would soon be doing parade. This did not make any sense to Minu, who was working as an insurance clerk at the time. But this prediction soon came true as Minu found himself bound for training as a student at the Central Police School in Nasik. When departing Karachi by ship, the old yogi came to see him off at the docks, garlanding Minu and bowing down to him. How very strange, thought Minu. Pandey then told him that in Nasik he would encounter a very holy man in a certain direction from the school, and that Minu should not leave him at any cost. Little did he dream how important this prediction would prove to be. Two events which occurred consecutively upon his arrival at the police training school illustrate the importance of Minu's association with the yogi Pandey in Karachi and further prove it was divinely orchestrated. On the very first evening of his arrival, around sunset, he walked out into the fields a little distance from the school to have his usual talk with God, as was his practice, and was sitting on a boundary marked stone. At the same time, one of the officers of the school was trying out a new gun, and at a good distance, and thinking Mino to be a good target, began unwittingly firing in his direction. Some servants of the school, including a barber, witnessed this near catastrophe and immediately ran to him in a panic, but found that miraculously he was unharmed. Minu wondered if the mantras he had been repeatedly assigned by the yogi had indeed protected him from gunfire. The next morning, that same barber, upon entering Minu's room on his usual rounds to attend to the needs of the students, recognized him from the previous evening and noticed the ladder of ascent on the wall. Observing Mino to be spiritually minded, thought he would be a total misfit at the school, and instead, raising his hand and pointing in a certain direction, suggested that he go and see a certain holy man who was then residing at the Circle Cinema on Bombay Agra Road. Upon hearing this, Minu remembered with a shock the prediction of the old man Pandey. He was further shocked to know the identity of this holy man as Meher Baba, as he remembered coming across that name several years back. So now we backtrack to his school time when he was matriculating uh, from high school. It so happened that during his school matriculation exam, while staying at his aunt's house, he had come across a magazine called Hindi Graphic, which was placed in the lavatory as toilet paper. And on the cover of this magazine was a photo of a holy man with the caption, His Holiness Sri Meher Baba. This was in 1928. And it was during this period that Minu was at the height of his frustration, considering all so called saints, sages, and holy men as nothing short of cheats and rogues. Even so, he did not appreciate the idea of the photo of a man said to be holy to be kept in a toilet. So he tore off the cover with the photo and kept it in a folded sheet of blotting paper and promptly forgot about it. The next day, on his way to the examination, he realized he had forgotten to wear his kasti, which was the holy thread worn by every devout Zoroastrian, but did not have time to return home for it. During the exam, a curious thing happened when a small piece of paper slipped off his desk to the floor, and out of it fell the photo of Meher Baba. Thus, this Meher Baba had accompanied him to the exam, while with all the zeal of a religious Zoroastrian, he had forgotten to wear his kasti. A second incident occurred while playing a game of billiards with some friends when, out of the blue, one of them mentioned this Meher Baba had stopped in Karachi on his way to Bombay from Iran. Minu wanted to immediately rush off to meet him at the docks, but was told that he had already sailed. Reflecting on these recollections from the past, and now coupled with the prediction of the yogi and the information of the close proximity of Meher Baba, as informed by the barber, Minu was determined to go and see this man, Meher Baba, face to face. Minu writes in his diary, January 17, 1932 was the happiest day of my life. Like a warrior of old, setting out fully armed to fight for his country, he set out fully armed for his holy expedition. He dressed himself in his usual white garments with a locket containing a small photo of Lord Zoroaster around his neck, the red holy thread given by the yogi in his inside pocket, and a sandalwood mala, which is a religious rosary, for prayers. Thus he felt secure and fully prepared. Upon arrival at the compound that Sunday morning, he was met by three disciples, Ramju, a Muslim, Vishnu, a Hindu, and Dadachanji, a Zoroastrian, one after another. When asked who he was and the purpose of his visit, to each he replied, I am a pagal, meaning madman, come from Karachi to meet a similar type of elder pagal, who I understand is staying here. Although he realized these words sounded rather idiotic to them, he felt convinced that they would internally convey to Meher Baba, if he was really holy, the silent and hungry heartbeats of a true seeker. Within minutes, the man called Meher Baba suddenly came out and stood just a few feet away. Minu notes, he appeared young, strongly built, strikingly handsome and clean shaven. His lovely hair flowed down to his shoulders. His mustache was full. His eyes were fascinating. And above all, he had a broad, charming, unforgettable smile on his radiant face. He wore a long white robe-like garment with a hip-length collared coat of cream color, and he was holding a small wooden board. Then and there, Minu felt a voice deep inside saying, Minu, here is God whom you have been searching for. From that moment of spontaneous joy and bliss, Minu knew his search had ended. Calling him into a room while seated on a mat on the floor with the disciple Chanji on his right, Baba asked Minu what he wanted. While keeping perfectly silent and fixing his gaze on Baba, Minu addressed him from within, emptying out all of his pent up frustrations while telling Baba that if indeed he was who he said he was, would know all this and be able to satisfy his inner cravings. To his amazement, using his alphabet board and via his disciple Chanji, Baba said, I have heard you completely. It is since your birth that this instinct is there within you. Do not worry. Do as I say. Forget I. Every night go to sleep in thoughts of me. Then began the verbal dialogue where Minu unburdened himself with all the good and bad that he had experienced since memory began and in his long search for God. He fearlessly told Baba about meeting the old yogi and showed him a picture, then began disarming himself of all his spiritual paraphernalia, confessing to all these childish things. Immediately Baba replied, This is not childish. It is this that has brought you to me. He further stated, You are connected with me since past lives. I have to repay the debt I owe you. Not only you love me, but I love you. At the end of this momentous meeting, Minu left with feelings that were indescribable. He was totally convinced he had at last found his very own God and the Savior and Messiah that the world desperately needed. He realized all his efforts to this day had not been in vain, and the true significance of all experiences to this point. He found himself recalling incidents from his childhood, for example, which had seemed previously inexplicable to him. For instance, when he was a young child, the old African watchman who guarded the house at night told him that around midnight, when he was fast asleep, God often came and sat beside his bed and actually caressed him. The watchman vividly described the appearance and dress of this being he felt to be God in human form. The description exactly matched that of Baba during his first meeting in Nasik. Furthermore, he learned years later that Baba was actually present in Karachi at that time and was staying only a few houses away. He also recollected that when visiting certain sages or holy ones as a child, as when he was in the presence of the renowned theosophist Krishnamurti, the sage looked at him with great reverence and took hold of his hands and placed them on his eyes and kissed him, then placed his hand on Minu's head with tears running down his face. Without a doubt, all these experiences and his entire life to this point had been a prelude of events and circumstances that brought Minu to the feet of his master. He was blissfully happy that from here on, through eternity, he would have his own God with him every step of the way. But this was only the beginning. And Minu realized that he had a long way to go yet to know Baba as he really is, to experience his ways, and learn to obey him 100% if he hoped to earn his grace in order to overcome all the obstacles in his path. After his initial meeting with Baba, Minu could not keep away from him and would avail of every opportunity to be in Baba's presence, even going as far as defying school regulations, which were very strict. But somehow, again, in spite of his truant behavior, he somehow or other escaped being caught in the act and being subsequently punished. You remember he was in the CID school, the police training school. This would be pointed out by Baba while enjoying his company, when Baba suddenly would turn to Minu and ask him why he was there at such an odd hour. Perhaps Minu thought this was to let him know that he was under Baba's protection. During this time, Baba asked Minu if he would obey him, and Minu replied, certainly. Baba then gave Minu his first order to read well, and adding, when I feel in the twinkling of an eye, I shall lift you up. Don't worry. I promise you, I take your responsibility. Thus far, Baba had not directly addressed Minu's consuming lust problem. But on the occasion of his 38th birthday celebration, which included a small darshan program, Baba openly referred to the subject. When in front of all gathered, Baba said, he is perfect from top to toe, but his eyes are very bad. This open hint opened the door to future direct guidance by the Master, who helps each one eliminate the blocks to perfection. Minu's training had begun in earnest, and along the way he learned many new lessons such as implicit obedience. Once, after inadvertently and in good faith disobeying a wish of the beloved, Baba ordered him to go away in front of all. Minu was crushed by this sudden rejection, not understanding the reason for his dismissal, and inwardly begged his forgiveness. When called back some time later, he realized his mistake in not obeying Baba when told to go and have his lunch at a certain time. Minu now knew that even the smallest wish was significant when it came to obeying the Master. Baba lovingly forgave him, admonishing at the same time to never disobey him again. During his stay in Nasik, Minu had the privilege to be in Baba's company often as part of the Mandli, taking part in games such as marbles, cricket, carom, ping pong, and cards. But this was also a period of suffering for Minu, who was deeply agonized at certain intervals when Baba was touring in the West or away for other reasons. He was also suffering physically from bouts of acute appendicitis. Baba would sometimes give him a mixture of lime juice and ice cream, or even a whole raw lemon once, which Minu consumed entirely, the skin, seeds, and all. Baba also advised him to seek immediate treatment at once from the doctor at his school. At times when Minu completely broke down, being overwhelmed between the physical and spiritual agony he was suffering, Baba would gently caress him like a mother would her child, saying, don't worry, you are exceptionally lucky to be so dearly loving me. Leave everything to me. I am doing my best. Baba then instructed Minu to return to Karachi immediately, where his presence was essentially required. Minu finally had his appendectomy while Baba was away on another trip to the West. Also, during this time, his relative friend, who he had a very deep association with from very young childhood, um, and with who he enjoyed a lifelong affinity, was undergoing a serious health crisis herself, which no one had informed him about. He then realized the importance of Baba's order to go there without delay. In the ensuing months, they both suffered periods of agonizing physical illness, yet each kept the other uplifted throughout these trying times, with Minu leaving the end result in his beloved's hands in total surrender. When Minu returned to Nasik in early 1933, Baba began integrating him into the Mandli and gave him the assignment of contacting the former mayor of Karachi, who had also been Minu's ideal. At this time, this was the gentleman, by the way, Jamshed Nasarwanji, um, who had orchestrated the contact between Baba and Mahatma Gandhi on that trip to the West for the Round Table Conference. So Jamshed Nasarwanji had arranged it because he knew Gandhi as well. At this time, Minu was also struggling with feelings of anxiety at being separated from Baba, thinking that even if he passed his exams, he would have to leave Nasik and hence leave Baba. But Baba reassured him all would be well even after he got a job, which he would be able to leave when Baba called him. More importantly, he gave Minu a master key pertaining to his lust problem, telling him, "Today I am giving you a master key, which note carefully. He who always loves is in me, but he who engages in lust keeps away from me. Be very, very careful. If you really desire to be near and with me, avoid lust. As soon as you are dragged heavily by lust, close your eyes and try to concentrate on the root of the nose between the two eyes and think of me. Do not do this for a long time." He further said, "Love lifts a man up, while passion or lust drags him down below. Do not worry for being lifted up by love, worry for being pulled down by lust. It follows that if you are not pulled down, you will automatically be pulled up." Baba also said this struggle was an eternal one, and one could hardly escape it on one's own unless he had the hand of a living master on his head to free him from it. But when Minu protested, saying how yogis of a high order had failed in this respect, what hope did he have to overcome it? To which Baba replied that he had to make the initial effort and then be worthy of his grace. In March of 1933, Minu was present at the wedding of Baba's brother Behram, and after speaking a few words spontaneously on the occasion, which Baba asked him to do, which Baba enjoyed and appreciated, he presented Minu his alphabet board, and Minu gave the one he had made, which he would use during his times of observing silence, to Baba. "I am deeply humbled to be the caretaker of this precious relic." So I have that with me in my possession. After passing his final exams at the police training school in Nasik, Minu was appointed the job of sub-inspector of police in Karachi and was ordered by Baba to accept the position. There would now be a gap of 4 years when Minu had no physical contact with Baba, but would remain connected via letters from the Mandli and sometimes even from Baba. Finally, he received a letter from Adi Senior, Baba's secretary, informing him of Baba's wish that he be present at his birthday celebration to be held on February 17th and 18th in 1937. Overjoyed to attend this auspicious occasion, Minu was witness to more than 10,000 who were present, and these were the poor to whom Baba distributed cloth, sweetmeats, and grain, and touched their feet. Minu was,
Goer,
yes,
one second. You know that movie of the 1937 birthday,
yes,
are you, is your father, I think your father's in that movie,
yes,
right?
yes, he's standing right next to Baba's mother, Shireen Mai. Yes,
Yeah,
that's Minu standing right next to her, just behind Baba.
yeah,
Yes,
okay.
yes,
Yeah, I seem to recall that.
yes,
And then he's walking with Baba, isn't he walking with Baba
up the
in that
hill.
last scene, right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
coming up the hill, that's right. Minu was sent with some Mandli members to the Mast ashram in Rahuri, where he observed the different types of musts or God intoxicated souls and their peculiar habits. This was another important phase in this advent of the beloved, and Minu was to participate in this work as he would soon discover. As a close member of Baba's intimate circle of 120 disciples, Minu was privileged to participate in many fasts and periods of meditation on the Beloved, which was assigned to them as a way of helping the Master with his world work for humanity, especially during the dark years of World War II. In June of 1947, Baba gave Minu and some other Mandli members the mission of trying to find musts in their own districts and bring them to the newly founded must ashram in Satara. Never having undertaken such a daunting task previously, Minu was naturally quite anxious, but eventually, being determined to fulfill Baba's wish, he managed the laborious and challenging undertaking and completed his mission successfully in transporting 3 musts from Karachi in spite of numerous hurdles and complications. Baba was immensely pleased with the work done, and as it turned out, Minu was the only one of 3 monthly members that were asked to perform this work to do it successfully. After staying for 2 days, Baba asked Minu to take the musk back to their old surroundings in Karachi. Baba then hugged Minu and told him again, "You are one of my most intimate mandli." During 1947, while trying to organize a Baba group in Karachi, then Minu meets my grandfather, Kekashu Patel, and his family, one of whom was his daughter, Freni. They soon developed a friendship that blossomed into a deeper relationship, and eventually, with Baba's permission and emphasizing his wish 3 times that they marry, they finally tied the knot in February 1954. At first, Minu's involvement with Freni caused a little friction with his relationship with this other relative whom he had a very long and deep association with from his childhood. And she was quite rebellious at this new intrusion of this new young interloper kind of thing. But over time and after the marriage, she eventually accepted the union and life was harmonious again. December of that year, in December of that year, yours truly made my debut into the family. And as with every event in his life, Minu right away sent off a cable to Baba informing him of my birth and requesting him to name me. At that time, Baba was in strict seclusion. Therefore, all mail was collectively put aside. Hence, I was nameless for a period of 5 months. My maternal grandparents were naturally concerned and upset, but Minu stuck to his guns and just waited patiently in complete trust and serenity. Finally, in April 1955, due to a tragic accident, when news reached Baba regarding the sad demise of Adi and Rhoda Dobash's young son, Homi, age 4, Baba briefly came out of seclusion, and that was when all the collected mail was brought to his attention, including Minu's cable. So Baba called his women Mandli and first pointing to Mera said, "Now there are too many Meras. We have given your name too many times," in other words. Then he said the same to his sister Mani. Next was Dr. Goher Irani, his personal physician. So he asked her if it would be okay to send her name. Dr. Gohar replied, "As you wish, Baba." Baba said, "So be it." Hence, that day, April 21st, 1955, Baba had Erach write and inform Minu that, quote unquote, "Today Baba has named your daughter Gohar," into parentheses, Jewel, "another treasured relic that I cherish." Almost 6 years later, my brother was born in November of 1960, and somehow the news had already reached Baba, who immediately sent a postcard naming him Meherji. Then we come to my meetings with Baba, and if you want me to go into that, Jeff.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's a good time to
So
yeah, to share your meeting with Baba.
my little story with Baba, which is so minuscule, but anyway, here goes. So
But
my
well, the thing too though is you're growing up there in Karachi and
yes,
you're hearing all about Baba and
all
everything.
along, yes.
What is your as a young child, how are you picturing Baba?
Oh, for me, it was very, very natural because I was in that atmosphere from day one. I just, Baba was God to me. It was as natural as having the nose on my face. I mean, I didn't think of it any differently or wonder about it. I just accepted that Baba was God, and as a very young child. And
And that God could be a human being,
yes,
and he wasn't just the infinite formless God, but
right, right. Oh no, with my father in his house, no way, no way. That was it was just explained to it was just a natural thing. It just because I was in that atmosphere the whole time and hearing dad's experiences, his when we would have the meetings at my house every month at our house, which was the Karachi center. Dad would expound on his many experiences and tell stories about Baba, and the more I heard him talk, the more I was just so convinced that Baba was God. Absolutely, no question about it. So
and so now you're kind of anticipating
yes,
meeting Baba. I mean, like, what? How are you feeling about that? That
well,
soon you're going to
this
be.
yeah. So for the first almost 8 years of my life, I was 7.5 when I met Baba for the first time physically, and all that that had been ingrained in me, that I felt very naturally. But now there was this excitement building up in me that I was actually going to meet him physically. I was actually going to see him with my own eyes. And that overwhelming feeling was, I just remember that feeling was so heightened in my little heart that I don't know how to express it. It was just overwhelming. And, um, and that took place in November, of course, of 1962 at the East West Gathering. So I just remember I was so excited with all this built up um, feeling in me that I was actually going to see him. And so on November 1st, 1962, I found myself at the gates of Guru Prasad Palace among thousands who had come from all over India and the West to partake of this joyous event. I remember thinking to myself as I walked to the back of the compound that as I turn around, all I want to see is Baba. And sure enough, as I turned around, now how I knew that this would happen, I don't know how it was even put into my head that it would turn out this way, but that's exactly what happened. We
In other
walked
words, in other words, you didn't want to see all the people. You wanted the first sight to
to
be
be Baba.
Baba.
Yes,
Yep. And
yes.
was Baba on the dais?
Yes, he was already seated at that first day when we got there. He was already seated on the dais. So, and I just knew that I would walk straight past the dais where he was seated, and that as I turn around, all I want to see is Baba. And sure enough, as I turned around, there he was in all his glory, beaming pure radiance on the stage. I was lost in a timeless moment. I just don't know how long I even stood there. I just stood watching him for I don't know how long. I watched as Baba gave darshan to thousands, one by one, bowing down and touching his feet. I recall the intense heat and humidity, and then all of a sudden, after a few hours, the sky opening up with a thunderous shower hitting all of us, a tremendous thunder shower, and drenching all of us near the stage. Baba then instructed the Western and some of us Eastern women and children to be taken into the women Mandli's quarters and be given some dry clothing. Hence, I found myself inside with the ladies, and Baba's sister Mani very sweetly gave me one of her dresses to change into. Subsequently, after we had returned home to Karachi, Mani sent me this dress as a memento of that auspicious day, which is yet another one of my treasured possessions. I think I showed you a picture of that last time, didn't I? Did I?
Yeah, one of the times you did.
Yes, I
Yeah.
did. Okay. Baba also called our Karachi group on certain days for his darshan in the small side room, as I recall the first time. And I recall the first time standing in line with dad and peeking from, like this from the side every few seconds to catch a glimpse of him as we were entering that small room. Finally, it was my turn, and this was the first time I was directly in his presence. I kneeled and lay my head on his feet touching my forehead on each one while gently holding them, never wanting to let go. When I finally stood up, I was in his loving embrace. Yet another timeless moment. The rest of the afternoon was spent sitting silently at his feet while he conversed with some, and I recall Dad whispering in my ear to keep my gaze on him and drink in every drop so that, quote unquote, this memory will last you a lifetime.
Yeah, yeah, say that again. And this is what your father said to you?
Yes. So after I had bowed down and taken my darshan with Baba and he had given me an embrace, we were all seated after a while, a few of us, the Karachi group, and I was sitting, my father was sitting right next to me. And as I was looking at Baba talking to people and conversing and so forth, he turned his head to me and he whispered in my ear to keep my gaze on him and drink in every drop so that this memory will last you a lifetime. That conscious memory, he wanted me to imbibe as much of Baba as I could, sitting in his presence physically, that, um, that memory would last me for the rest of my life.
So you just, from then on, you just kept your sights on Baba.
Yes, I just sat there and looked at Baba. Nobody else in the room mattered to me. It was just, my focus was Baba and only Baba. That's it. And
Did during any of that time, did he kind of look over at you?
he did not. He did not say anything to me directly. Um, I was kind of, I was a very shy child, as I think I mentioned before. And my only trepidation was that at that point, I had not perfected, I was learning the Master's Prayer and the Repentance Prayer. I was only 7.5 at the time, but I didn't have it down pat. And I was just wondering if Baba would point at me and say, recite the prayer for me or something like that. And I was petrified that he might turn to me and ask me to say the prayer when I didn't know it by heart, you know. That was my only fear, but he didn't. He must have read my mind because he didn't. So that was that. And then the next and last physical meeting with beloved Baba came in 1965 when he had called only some Eastern groups. This time, when I stood up after taking his darshan, he gestured, "How big you've grown." He just looked at me and said, you know, that was a span of 3 years. So he said, "How big you've grown." When my brother Meherji, who was not yet 5 years, bowed down to Baba, he just stayed there for a while and had to be coerced to get up. He just wouldn't get up. He just kept his head on Baba's feet. So the ladies' Mandli, who had been observing this from behind the scenes, remarked how lucky he was. And indeed he was. Um, so. And then Baba told us women to go and meet with the women Mandli out on the veranda at Guru Prasad. So we were there with Mera and Mani and all the women Mandli. And Mera asked me to sing a song. Oh my, as shy as I was, I didn't know what to do because I just was such a shy little thing. And, but of course, this was Mera asking me, so I couldn't say no, I couldn't refuse. And I frantically was searching in my head what to sing. And the only thing that came to my mind was a song that we were learning in school at the time, which was "Swing Low, Sweet Chariot," which is a spiritual, right? It's an
Yeah.
old spiritual song. So yeah.
What were some of the thoughts that you had, though? Now you're 3 years older.
Yes, 11.
What are some of the thoughts that you had?
Oh my, who can remember? I was just thrilled to be there, of course, to see Baba again, and uh, it's it's almost un, I cannot describe it. It's just a very overwhelming, a very full feeling, a very um, I just felt like I was floating sometimes. It was just a wonderful feeling just to be there.
I mean, did you feel like you're somehow in a slightly different world?
World in on a different
Slightly-
plane. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Not of yeah, kind of not of this world. That
Yeah.
kind of feeling.
And you didn't have like um, any self-doubts about yourself or anything? Or was a lot of that was just effaced or dissolved?
Yeah, I was too young about, how do you mean self-doubt? I don't follow.
You know, like, does he like me? Does he love me? Does he notice
Oh
me?
no, oh no,
None of that.
none of that. No,
Yeah.
no. Being a very shy child, I just kept, to myself and didn't really expect much from others. So with Baba, I was just in awe. I was in absolute awe to be in the presence of God in human form. I mean, that reality hit me so many times. I remember thinking at that time that I can't believe I'm in the presence of God, God Almighty. I mean, that the huge, impact of that was very keenly felt by me. I was overwhelmed, to say the least.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I
So
mean, you had no doubt this is God right in front of you,
absolutely,
and that how did you happen to get there? You know,
I don't know.
yeah.
So yeah. And then, of course, we attended the last darshan after Baba had dropped his body in April of 1969 in Mehrabad. And that was my first trip to Mehrabad. I had not been to Mehrabad before that. So, along with the Karachi group, and Dad being a volunteer and guide, as he often was at these kind of gatherings, um, I recall when we approached, we had come in a bus from Pune to Mehrabad, and as we approached the hill at Mirabad on the bus in Nagar, Minu jumped up and shouted, Parvardigar Meher Baba ki jai, three times, and the whole bus sort of resounded with that. So then we were housed under these huge tents in lower Mirabad that had been set up for the duration of the Darshan program. And thousands of people were there. They had journeyed from all corners of the globe to partake of this precious time at the feet of their beloved. Um, and then we visited Guru Prasad, of course, afterwards, and all uh, the Westerners had come, the American group from New York, the Sufis, and for the first time, I heard the American arti being sung by Hank Mindlin and the Sufi group, which was so melodious and so precious. One of my favorite artis to this day. Um, and then on the veranda at that time, I came across a journal in which I don't know if any one of you remember this journal, but anyway, there was this journal that was kept on a table on the veranda, and anybody was welcome to sign in it, like a guest journal. And so I took the opportunity to record in there, and I just simply wrote, United in Your Love Forever, inside my name.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So growing up with the example and magnetic personality that was my father, Minu, I had the privilege of learning from one of the best. The lessons of faith and obedience in particular were some of the strongest, which left a lasting impression on me and which have repeatedly stood me in good stead throughout my life. I would like to share with you a few stories during the course of Minu's journey with Baba, which highlight these qualities. First, on the topic of obedience, an incident which took place in Delhi in 1941 when a strict Sikh monk all his family members were instructed to obey Baba,
Ah,
even to the point where their wives were
go where
openly
we're,
cited.
ah, we've lost her for the time being.
Oh, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
We lost you for a little while there.
Okay, I'll start again. I'll pick up from where I left off. So I was saying, growing up with the example, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
Okay.
hear you now.
So, growing up with the example and magnetic personality that was my father, Minu, I had the privilege of learning from one of the best. The lessons of faith and obedience, in particular, were some of the strongest, which left a lasting impression on me and which have repeatedly stood me in good stead throughout my life. I would like to share with you a few stories during the course of Minu's journey with Baba, which highlight these qualities. First, on the topic of obedience, an incident which took place in Delhi in 1941 while Baba was in strict seclusion. All lovers and Mandli members had been instructed to avoid all contact with Baba, even to the point of turning away if he was suddenly sighted. Minu was at a critical point at this time, with all kinds of personal pressure weighing him down, and also being at a critical point of breaking Baba's order regarding his personal weaknesses, and not being allowed any contact at the time, had decided to take a pilgrimage to bathe in the river Ganges. A leave of absence from work was virtually impossible. Nevertheless, he approached his superior officer for permission to leave, which was laughed at, being out of the question. Incredibly, though, in a few minutes later, the officer handed him an immediate order from his commanding officer for Minu to leave at once for Delhi on an urgent mission, or urgent secret mission. As it happened, he was at the train station in Delhi, and lo and behold, he saw Baba on the opposite platform. But remembering Baba's order, he immediately shut his eyes and turned away. With a heavy heart, knowing how close Baba was, but obedient to his order, he went back to his hotel and was in a desperately miserable state all night. Towards dawn, there was a knock on his door, and to his amazed surprise, he found Chanji and a few of the close Mandli. Chanji said he had been sent by Baba, who was very pleased with his implicit obedience at the train station, but wanted to know what this recent urge to go and purify himself in the Ganges was all about. Baba instructed him not to worry, no need for pilgrimage, go back. After that, Chanji told him to knock 3 times on his bedroom wall. And to his astonishment came 3 knocks in reply from the other side. Minu was in the Hotel Royal in room 13, while Baba was in the adjacent Hotel Regal in room 13. So even though Minu could not see him, he was blissfully happy to have Baba so close by.
Now, you said that was in 1941, not
Yes.
51?
No, that was 41.
41, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a famous story.
Yeah.
And that knocking 3 times with
Yeah.
Margaret meant "I love you."
Yes. There
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
So a
Hey,
second.
Goer, what about stopping at this point
Yeah.
and opening it to any questions that people might want to ask you?
Sure.
You know, and we can always save that. We can always find some time for you to come again
Okay.
with whatever you didn't complete. But you know, it's kind of late and everything. But
Sure.
let's open it to anyone who might have a question.
Okay.
Let's see here. Well, let me check the. Oh, there's a question. Yeah, Prakash.
Hey, Jai Baba.
Hey, Baba Prakash.
Thanks, God. Thanks, everybody.
Sure.
I just have recently we were listening to Ursula Reinhardt speaking in Mehrana Sahabas,
Yeah.
and she mentioned that she and her group of friends were at your place in Karachi.
Yes.
If you know something about that, I mean, I don't know if it is the right time now,
Yeah.
but we'll be glad to know.
Sure. So this was, if I'm not mistaken, in the early 70s. No? No. Oh, did she mention the year, Prakash? I forget.
I think, if I recall correctly, it's early 60s, perhaps.
No.
And she did mention that you were.
Oh, no, it's 57, I think, late 50s, late
No.
50s.
No,
No. That's too early.
Okay.
No.
they met Baba in 65, I think. So it
Ah,
was after
okay.
65.
Okay.
And you were around 7 years old or something like that. She did
Oh,
mention that, I remember.
okay. All right. If it was 65, I was a little older than that. But however, I do remember them coming. Yes. They had come via the land route. Remember, they came in an old Volkswagen car, and they had a dog, Sita, with them, Mick, Ushi, and Sita. They stayed with us for quite a while. They were heavily into drugs at that time, I think, and that was the whole um, premise that they'd gone to see Baba, and Baba had instructed them about drugs and whatnot. And I don't know whether it was before they met Baba or after they met Baba that they stopped in Karachi. Did she mention? I'm missing out on that. I'm forgetting about that, whether it was before they met Baba or after. But however, they were in Karachi for, I would say, quite a few weeks. And I believe Mick was taken quite ill at the time
Yes.
as well, right?
Yes, he was very ill, and yeah, and Baba had instructed Meenu to take
Yes.
care of them.
Yes, he stayed at our house. In fact, they were staying in my room, in my bedroom. If I had a very tiny little, hole in the wall type of. Our house was very small anyway to begin with, but so they had that little room which we used to call Baba's room because Dad had plastered the entire walls and everything with. I mean, Baba's pictures were from almost floor to ceiling kind of thing. And so we used to call that Baba's room. And so they stayed there and for quite a while. Yes. So I just remember them being there and not a very, I guess it was a tense time period in their lives at that point. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They were going through a lot of issues. Yeah. But I was very young. So, I mean, I just, this is what I could sense at the time. Yeah, and then Robert Dreyfus had come after that as well. We had a few people come and stay at our house. Robert Dreyfus, I remember, and Irwin and Edward Luck. They had also come in the early 70s. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
And,
you. Baba.
this is a question that might be hard to answer, but like suppose you hadn't met Baba and grown up with, your father who was, so close to Baba, and you grew up in America, but you knew of Baba, you felt the love for Baba. How would you go about your life here? In getting to know more about Bob and everything, what do you think you would do? I don't know if that, I mean, that's a kind of a speculative question, but
Yeah. Well, that having not been my experience, if as you say, I had grown up here and not having met Baba, is that what you said?
yeah.
Not, well, I would definitely go to all the centers that are there right now, being Myrtle Beach, and try and contact, be in touch with people who had met Baba and get to know more of him through them. That's what I would do. Yeah, and of course I'm a prolific reader, so I would have read everything that was written by or about Baba.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we've done.
And that's right.
All done,
That's right. And now these wonderful Zoom sessions, which are,
Yeah.
keep us all connected so nicely. Yeah, in Baba's love.
But yeah, I think most of us like, all that you read and everything just makes Baba more and more real. You fill in
That's
all
right.
the colors, his personality, his ways, he eventually he becomes the one that that you colored, you might
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
we got some questions. We got Josh has appeared.
Oh, Josh from Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be studying, and he's again just playing hooky.
That's true. Yes, I have an exam tomorrow. That is true. Yeah, I really just wanted to thank you, Goher, because I can tell that you've put a lot of work into this. You're reading off sort of like a script. You've really put in a lot of effort to sort of convey your experience, which is really incredible. And so, yeah, I was just really wanting to thank you for that. And but yeah, like, do you often do these? Like, do you often want to share your experience? Like, how open and available are you to discussing Baba?
I'm open and available anytime anybody wants to talk to me. I wish I could talk to more people and shout Baba from the rooftops, but you know, as the saying goes. But here in a little town that we are in, we don't get that much opportunity. And of course, with COVID and all that, this whole last year, we haven't really traveled or gone anywhere. So, but of course, I would be open anytime to discussing anywhere, anytime. That would be that's actually what I long to do, and that's my heart desire. That's my little bit that I can do for Baba. So if I can help anybody in that regard, I'm most certainly open to it anytime.
Yeah, I'd love to chat with you because I'm in a similar situation where in
Yeah.
Sydney there's some good Baba lovers, but you know there's it's I'm really interested in meeting and talking to other Baba lovers overseas. So yeah, it's great. I'll sometime we'll have to catch up and have a chat on Zoom.
Yeah,
Absolutely, we'll do that. Absolutely.
yeah, you could get the people at Sydney there to. We got another question there.
Yeah.
For Diane.
Hi, Goher. How are you?
Hi, Diane. Jai
Thank
Baba.
you for another great evening.
Sure.
I'm not going to, I hope I'm going to try and be articulate. So Baba, please take over here. I'm curious about, there's like, when I meet people who were raised in a Baba family, I kind of have this fear of missing out. But I've heard from some people who were raised in Baba loving families that it's not a slam dunk, that you still have to do all the work to create a heart that connects.
Yes, this is
Baba.
true.
So that's one part of my question. And then my second part of the question is, how have you brought Baba into your life? Because I believe you have children too.
Yes.
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 So I'm interested in now, because they're growing up in a Baba
Yes.
loving family. So
So yeah,
Good questions.
I will start off by saying that even though you grow up in a Baba family, we've seen very often that it's not given to everybody to have that conviction from day one that Baba is God and to believe in him and so forth. I truly believe it's your past preparedness that brings you to that point. And so if that's the case in my case as it was, then I find I'm supremely blessed to have been in that position, to have just naturally accepted him for for what he is. But some people don't have that, and that's also been true. Um, Sometimes it takes many years before somebody who has either known of Baba or been in close proximity, even some of his close relatives in his own family did not take to him from day one. And it took many years for them to come to that conviction. But the longing has to be there. So if that longing is there to want to know him as God, then you go on to earn his grace. And of course, he will help you along that route. And as for children, yes, we have 3 children and now 4 grandchildren, and and so they all have been brought up about knowing, of course, knowing Baba. And we've also traveled to India and been at Baba's Samadhi and met with some of the Mandli who have been in Mirabad and Mirzad. So they've definitely grown up knowing about Baba, but as in a Zoroastrian family, with my husband coming from a very priestly line in that Zoroastrian religion, they also have been reared as Zoroastrian children as well. So, but their faith and belief in Baba is, I would say, not having firsthand experience, not having been there or had the same background as I have. Of course, their story is a little different from mine, but they all love and respect Baba very, very much. So I always try and instill in them what I have gained, what I have learned, and try to pass that over to them, to try and have them realize the impact of which family they have come into, and the significance of that, and to make that important, to make that how should I say, give them that, to try and instill that faith in them, to try and instill that that knowledge that if ever they need Baba, he's right there with them. But to keep thinking of him, and the more they think of him, the more he is with them. So that I try to instill in them as much as possible through my own life and through my own experiences.
I mean, they didn't have like any problem with, I mean, like Zoroastrians normally don't think of God in human form, but they didn't have that problem.
No, because they were all of them were born here in the West, first of all. So I think that's a huge advantage, not growing up in the old Orthodox community back home, which has also come a long way, I have to say. But of course, there are still those that are firmly rooted in the old Orthodox Zoroastrian thinking, and would not believe Baba to be God in human form. But that is given to very few, isn't it? So, yeah.
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 So we got Marta. She's, she's a lawyer, a DC lawyer, so she has very,
Oh dear, I'm intimidated now.
yeah, no, she
Jeff,
doesn't.
you're a troublemaker.
I'm just joking.
Goher,
Yes,
hi,
dear.
Goher. Since you said that you enjoy speaking about Baba, could I, through Angela, perhaps get in touch with you later, and maybe you could speak at our Baba meeting in Santa Barbara on Tuesday evenings on Zoom?
Oh my. I'm also now newly connected with
Oh.
our local Florida group, and their
Uh-huh.
meetings are also on Tuesday.
Tuesday? Okay,
Yeah.
well, pretty soon we're going to change to Wednesday, so maybe I can grab you then. That's okay. You said that you would speak. Okay, that's fine.
Well,
I wanted to.
Martha, it's a 3-hour difference, so it might come after her.
Oh, okay.
It's
Yeah.
10 o'clock your time. Go here.
Oh,
We'll see. I'll talk to her later.
Yeah.
Goher, I have a question too.
Yes.
Once Eric in Mandali Hall
Yeah.
told us that Baba was a jealous lover. And I'm wondering, was that your experience, and what do you feel that he meant by saying that?
That he's a jealous lover.
Jealous God, yeah.
Yes, yes. I think it simply means that once you come into Baba's fold, that there is no earthly reason for you to look or be or go anywhere else. Baba always said, if you like, what is that saying? I'm trying to think of this phrase that was just popped out of my head. Which will, convey my meaning. In other words, he is the true and only one. He's the real McCoy. That's what I wanted to say. That's right. If he's the real McCoy, why would you want to go anywhere else? So that's why Erich meant, that's right. Thank you, Baba.
The real McCoy.
Yes, he's the real McCoy. So why look anywhere else? There's no reason for you to. That's why he's very jealous. If you were to look here or there for your own benefit, he would be jealous. So.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, what you said there, that he plays the role of being jealous really for our sake.
That's right. That's right.
It's not that he's jealous, but it helps us.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. Tina.
Yes, Goher, thank you.
Oh, Jai Baba, thank you.
Jai Baba, I'd like to know a little bit more about you. What's your profession? Did you have an arranged marriage? Did Baba have a hand in that? Or?
No, none of that. So I'm professionally, I'm a domestic engineer. I've always been that most of my life, by which I mean a mother. I did work initially when I first came to this country, newly married, but that was only for a few years, for about 3 years or so. And then my husband is a physician, he's a surgeon. And so when we started having our family, he decided there was no need for me to work. And so I stopped working at that point, outside the home. That's what I had. But No, Baba did not. At that point, Baba was already had dropped his body. I met my husband, I would say, what, 3 years before we were married. Met him right after, what, 1971, I would say, 70 or 71, 71, right? And we knew each other very briefly for about a year and a half in Karachi. And then he came here for his additional training as a newly graduated MD surgeon. And so we were separated for 3 years, but we kept in touch. We wrote to each other. And then 3 years later, he just called up one day and he said he had 2 weeks off and it was now or never. So that was the extent of his proposal.
Very romantic.
Yeah, very, I know. He came home, we were married, and within a month I was here at a very early age. I was only 19 when I was married. So I've been here most of my life.
Yeah, you have lost a lot of the Indian accent.
Oh, okay. I've lost it or I still have it?
Just a little bit, but not too much.
Not too much, yeah. So I was educated in a convent of Jesus and Mary in Karachi. So we had a lot of foreign nuns who were our teachers.
Yeah.
And so English was our main language. And
yeah, beautiful speaking.
Thank you. Thank you.
Lovely.
So we got Dinku. She is from Mumbai.
Oh, nice.
She's connected with the Dada Chanjis there.
Okay. Okay, now which branch of Dada Chanjis? I would love to know that.
Franny Dada Chanji?
Well,
oh.
Sorry.
Where is she?
No, connected in the sense that I knew them at the Rhoda and Jimmy family lived above me in Dada colony.
Oh yes, of course.
From the time I was born, and then I lost connection with them after the age of 5 because my father was posted abroad. But
Dinku,
then of course,
yeah.
Can you, it's a little hard to hear you. Move a little closer if you can.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm walking my dog as well. Yeah. So after that, I moved across the street to where Homa and Trainee Dada Chanji, Trainee and Dara stayed.
Yeah.
When I got married. So I live across the street right here. I'm just passing the room that Baba used to stay in when he'd come and stay here.
I see.
Yeah. I just have a question.
Sure.
By the way, my dad was from Karachi as well.
Oh.
Yeah, his family. He grew up there. Then at partition, he moved to Bombay.
Okay.
Yeah. When you say your dad gathered, made a group of, for Baba lovers in Karachi.
Yeah.
Were they mainly Zoroastrians or were they from all other communities as well?
No, there were other communities as well. Most of us were Parsis, yes. Most of us, but we did have some Hindus. There was, I think, Ramju, who was Baba's Mandli, very close Mandli in Mehrabad. His aunt Aisu was in Karachi, so she and her family used to come for meetings, as well as some other non-Parsis, if I remember correctly. Yes.
And are there still Baba groups in Karachi?
Not too many right now. The only, the two that I know of are Zareen Mawalwala, who is Freni, Rustam and Freni's sister. Freni, who was married to Rustam Dada Chanji in Bombay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Freni's sister, younger sister Zareen, she's still there in Karachi. And so is my sister-in-law, who was married to my brother, Mirji, Jasmine Driver.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. There are a few others, but I don't know them personally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Dear.
Thanks for a very interesting talk.
Oh, thank you,
Yeah.
Jai Baba.
We got Wendy from Ontario.
Jai Baba,
Jai Baba, Wendy.
thank you. It's been lovely. This is a kind of a personal question. So if I understood you right, you said you're fairly isolated where you are. Is that correct?
Well, we're in a very small town in South Central Florida, which is a
Okay.
very rural area.
Okay.
We're in between a lot of cornfields and so forth.
Okay.
So about an hour and a half from each coast.
Okay.
So don't get to, be among big groups or sort of in a big city or anything like that. So that's why I feel like it's isolated.
Okay.
That's right.
So that's my life. I'm very isolated
Okay.
where we are. It's
Yeah.
a beautiful country. I'm happy with that.
Yes. Same
But
here.
I would love to know, when you don't have that, or maybe you do have this, if you don't have regular contact with other Baba lovers,
Yeah.
do you have something that you pull on that helps you get through that?
Well,
Because sometimes I get, it's like I am so hungry for a Baba conversation.
yeah, same here. Exactly
Okay.
my feeling too. Yes.
Okay.
Has happened. Yeah, I feel that isolation sometimes very much. When we used to live up in New York, we were at least closer to another Baba family, which was Merwan Mistry and his wife. They were, Rhoda and Jimmy's eldest son, Merwan. They were closer to us, and so we would meet them at least from time to time, which was very nice. But anyway, what do I do to get myself in that? I read a lot, of course. I start my day with Baba and I end it with Baba, and I read a lot prolifically. I watch a lot of videos, of course, and any which way that I can, or just commune with him while whether I'm, cooking in the kitchen, listening to my favorite music, or he's just with me. He's just there. So yeah. Just
Good.
try and remember him, try and picture him, try talk to him, things like that.
Okay. Well, I'm on the right track then.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And all these wonderful Zoom sessions. I'm so blessed that we have this. So this
Oh,
keeps us
me
connected,
too.
doesn't it?
Me too.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
That's it. Just keep it.
You mentioned Merwan Mystery. I've asked him to come, not this coming Tuesday, I think it's the following Tuesday.
Oh, yay.
And he's got some great stories.
Oh,
and he
yes.
goes way back. His family goes back to Chanji, Baba's
Yes.
first secretary. Yeah.
That's right. Yes. But
So
he
that's-
grew up under Baba. He had many, many opportunities to be with Baba and Guru Prasad and Pune and all of that. Yes. So,
Very entertaining.
yeah.
to
Yeah.
say.
Oh, I'm so thrilled he's coming. That's wonderful.
Yeah. Let's see if there are any. I know we got you up past your bedtime.
That's okay. Tomorrow's a holiday anyway. So
Yeah. I'm just. Anyone else?
every day is the same for me. So no problem.
Okay, we've got Fred Stankus.
Okay.
He's 6'6", so don't let him intimidate you.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi, Jai Baba Goher.
Jai Baba, Fred.
I just would like to ask, you're born into this mystical family of Mino's mystical nature.
Yeah.
Does your DNA sort of have that same mystical like feeling, and you get some urges that are beyond the physical realm?
Oh yes, I do. I do. What should I say? Yes and no. In a sense, I've already experienced all of that with being around my father and knowing of all his experiences and so forth. But nothing right now to be in the mystical sense. I mean, I have Baba and I know that with all my heart. So I don't try to delve into anything else that that you would deem mystical in a sense. So I'm just content being here and having Baba with me. That's it. That's all I need.
Well, would you kind of describe your experience with Baba just as a very human, down to earth, very kind of natural kind of companionship or camaraderie,
Yeah.
rather than a kind of a mystical or transcendent
Yes.
experience,
Yes.
just more down to earth.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Very tangible. Yes. No, I've had no out of body experiences or anything like that. Although I read about it a lot and I think about it sometimes, but there's no reason for me to want that right now or to, yeah. So, but it's fascinating to read about it and know about it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Erich used to say, it was our job to look after his body.
Yes.
I mean, the Mandalay did very menial things, you might say.
Yeah.
Cooking, cleaning the utensils, and taking care of animals, and writing correspondence. But Erich used to say, we looked after his body.
That's right. Yeah. That was their job, and that was what they were there to do. Yeah, that was their lot. In other words, yeah. So, yeah.
Any other? You think that Rainey would have a question? I don't know. So we're
I do have a question.
Yes, I really Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, dear, go ahead. More and still yet more. Is this possible, Goher? We so enjoy it when you read to us from this wonderful story.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. My father's life was so full of Baba. Yes, that's true. So I would be fascinated every time he started talking, and that imbibed in me so much and impacted me in so many different ways that I feel truly blessed, truly blessed. So wish he was here.
I'm also very grateful that you brought back the term domestic engineer. Totally phased out domestic engineer, and I'm thinking, oh God, she's an engineer as well as a great one.
No.
Yes.
I meant
us mothers and housekeepers are definitely domestic engineers.
Right?
I forgot that phrase. Thank you.
No,
Can I ask her one more quick question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I don't know how quick your answer will be, but why do you think Baba sent us this pandemic? What's your take?
Why did Baba send us this pandemic? Well, I'm sure it was all orchestrated and is playing out in total perfection, as bad as it is, and as horrific as it has been for so many people. This is Baba's way of, I think, of clearing, of balancing, of there has to be a balance in nature always. And if he has to open the way for certain things to happen, certain other events to take place. And I think this is just in a way, it's a cleansing. It's just, it was meant to be, and it's played out in perfection. So that's my take on it.
Have you had it?
It had to. No, we haven't. No, thankfully we both of us are vaccinated, and my initial worry, of course, was my husband working very close with COVID patients all the time. So in his capacity as a surgeon. But then again, you turn and say to Baba, Baba, I leave it all to you. And touch wood, and Baba, we're blessed. We're blessed. Yeah.
And at least we didn't get a nuclear war.
Yes, yes. So it's the same as the pandemic 100 years ago, or the two great wars that the world has seen, and so forth. So there's always an upheaval in nature. There's always but it's always to balance things out. And I think that's what he does in his supreme capacity. It has to be that way. So
Yeah.
just have to leave it to him.
We got Julie from the Southwest.
Okay, thank you for taking my question. My question is that Baba, he embodies knowledge, power, and love bliss. And I think I've been focusing on the love bliss and knowledge. Did you sense any his power emanating from him? Was that like a sense of light or grace?
You
What-
mean when I met him?
When you
When I met him. As a child, all I experienced was just pure joy at seeing him, as knowing him to be God in human form. It was just pure joy, nothing else. Just I was filled to the brim, if you will. My heart was just filled to the brim. That's the only way I can describe it.
Okay.
I was just overwhelmed and filled with joy. But no, nothing about power or anything. To me, he was just a loving being, physically sitting there in front of me. But the very thought that he was God in human form was sitting in front of, I was sitting in front of. So that feeling was very overwhelming, was very poignant, very, filled me to the brim, is all I can say.
Did you cry?
I was speechless. I don't believe I cried. No, I was just in total awe. I can just envision it even now and just know that that feeling in me was of total awe. I was just in absolute amazement, if you will, that I was actually so fortunate to be supremely blessed. And that was the thought that went through my mind many times, how blessed I was, supremely blessed to have had that opportunity. I mean, how many people in their lifetimes are given this kind of opportunity? It's very rare. So it's not given to everybody. So the impact of that was very greatly, has stayed with me all along. Was there at that time when I was not even 8 years old, but even today. So very, very blessed. Yes.
Yeah, beautiful. We got Alan Manukian.
Jai Baba. Hey, I was just wondering if, I'm not sure if you went over this, I'm just coming in now, sorry. What was your reaction to Baba, the news of Baba dropping his body?
Yeah, we were all very much in shock, I would say. I was in my early teens at the time. My father at first didn't even believe it when he first heard about it. But then he had placed an immediate call when 2 or 3 people told him. He heard it first from Adi Dubash's father, who had heard it on the news on All India Radio. And he sent a servant over to tell my father that Meher Baba he had heard that Meher Baba had dropped his body. And my father didn't believe him at first. He was like, no way, no way. And then subsequently he heard again, and then Adi, I think, came over and reiterated what had happened. So they called Bombay to Arnavaz and Nariman Darachanji's place in Bombay to confirm the news. And of course, they had already left and were not home. And then subsequently, they heard from Adi Senior in Ahmednagar, Baba's secretary, that Baba had dropped his body. And at that time, the realization hit that this had indeed happened. So we were all in great shock. That was true. But we couldn't pick up and go right away because the great darshan had been planned for April to June of that year, and everybody had been invited for that, Eastern as well as Western groups. And so being in Pakistan at the time, we had already applied for our visas to go in April. So for that reason, we could not pick up and just go at that time. And then not knowing the uncertainty of not being able to see Baba when, before he was interred and all that. So we didn't go right at that time, but later on in April, we went for the Great Darshan. So great shock, for sure.
How did that, the shock of that,
yeah,
and then getting Baba's presence back in your life, so that he didn't really he dropped his body but not his presence. Did you did that take a while for that to play out to where you knew he was still with you?
I don't think so. I think we had gone for the last darshan and just bowing down at his samadhi. It was such a surreal atmosphere, and it was so charged with his presence that you just felt Baba was there. He had not gone anywhere. He couldn't be seen with your physical eyes, but he was definitely there, very, very strongly there. No, I never felt he was away from us. It's just we couldn't see him. That's all, physically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Hey, well, let's see. It might be
a little late, I know.
The bedtime for, unless there are any last questions, let's have a few moments of silence here. And but thank you so much for just sharing, right from your heart and your experience and all of that. And it just makes Baba all that more real. And
Jeff, can I just close with one dream I had of Baba? It touches on your last point just now about how why I feel that Baba is not away from us or present in our lives. And I think Prakash wanted to hear this the last time we had talked. So here's the dream, Prakash, that I had. And so this was back in May 6th of 97. All of a sudden, out of the blue, I have this dream. So there's a large gathering. It seems like Amartithi. Baba's body is brought out of the tomb and displayed where all can view. Baba looks as fresh as if he's just asleep. We, meaning myself, my husband, and someone to my left, not sure who, maybe one of the children, my son vaguely I can recall, gaze at his serene form with great wonder. All of a sudden, as if the most natural thing in the world, Baba's eyes start fluttering, and I'm so filled with awe and excitement and want to rush to him. People all around me are wanting to do the same. Finally, I come near him. Baba looks young as ever, skin smooth, hair dark and wavy. I feel so overwhelmed, and as I'm gazing at him, he slowly opens his eyes and looks at me. I take his hand in mine, which feels smooth as marble and slim, and hold it gently to my face and say, Jai Baba. He continues looking at me and replies, Jai Baba. I feel completely lost in the moment and so very fortunate. Later, I have the sense that now that Baba is back with us physically, so many of his newer lovers who did not have the opportunity of meeting him physically before now have that chance. As huge a miracle as this is, to me, it feels like the most natural thing in the world. I later meet another Baba lover outside and urgently request him to go and find James Cox, who must meet Baba now. That's my last thought before I wake up.
James Cox.
And as soon as I wake up, I wrote it down. So.
Yeah, beautiful.
Thank you. Thanks.
So that was my dream.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Jai
Baba. Well, let's have a few moments of silence. And Jai Baba.
Jai
Wow.
Jai Baba.
Amazing how we can meet like this and it's so real.
Yes, yes.
It is just something else.
It is.
Baba's miracle.
It is. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Goher.
Thank you, Goher.
Thank you, Goher.
Jai Baba.
Thanks, Goher.
Thank you.
Jai Baba, Goher.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jai
Hi,
Baba.
BJ.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
You
Thank
really
you.
bring these experiences to life for us.
Thank you, Dinku.
Those
Thank
of us who didn't, get a chance to meet him.
you. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, dear,
Thank
so welcome. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Thank you, Goher from Venice Beach.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. Yeah, thank you.
Anytime.
We look forward to part 3.
Oh, okay. Few more stories on obedience and faith, and that's
Yeah.
all I have. So anyway, that was a good.
The people down there in Tampa Bay and St. Petersburg, they should have you over.
Well, they have already, Jeff. I spoke to them last Tuesday.
Okay. Oh,
Pam Rubenstein reached out to me,
oh, good.
and Jane Saladino, and I spoke to that group last Tuesday.
Oh, okay, beautiful.
So,
Yeah.
all right. Okay. Jai Baba.
Avatar Meher Baba
की जय
Avatar Meher
बाबा
Baba
की जय
Avatar
मेहर बाबा की जय
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Goher.
Jai Baba Nasreen. Thank you.
Oh, Jai Baba. Jai Baba.
जय बाबा
I'm hoping to get one of those streams. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Me too.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Jai Mir Baba, Code Office.
Good.
Jai Baba.